Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over Radiance. I'm going to show you what it does, how to use it, and when to buy it. So to start off, Radiance is 4,700 gold, and this isn't super expensive if you look at the, grand scheme of things with every item in the game, but for what it does and when you're going to be buying it, it's actually a very expensive item because you buy it pretty early in the game, if not like your first big item. And so 4,700 gold is a lot for that. And then what it does is it gives you 55 damage and 15% evasion, and it has this active component that it's an active, but really what it is it's just a passive that always is on, but you can turn that passive off. And what that is, it's an AoE burn. So basically when you have this item around your hero, there is a burn that happens to enemy creeps or enemy heroes. It's basically just magic damage in an AoE that's constantly happening. You can turn that off if you want to, but there are only very rare circumstances where you really want to turn that off. For the most part, you're just going to be having this on, in farming situations or team fight situations or just in the game in general, just to do more AoE damage. The other big thing that this burn does is not only do you get 15% evasion yourself, but also the burn effect causes enemies to miss 15% of their attacks. So it's basically just like an AoE miss chance as well, not just for yourself, but for any enemy in that AoE attacking. So that can be a benefit as well, kind of for your team. It's mostly for you, honestly, when you buy this, thinking about the evasion just being a little bit tankier for right clicks and stuff like that, just dodging them. But still, it is important to note that that AoE miss does come into play sometimes. And then the last thing to mention is that this 15% evasion plus the 15% miss chance actually stacks together, but it doesn't equal 30 because it's not just 15 and 15 together. It's that it takes into account one of them first, and then on the remaining chance, it takes into account the next miss. I don't remember which one is first, but basically it ends up being a little bit less than 30, but you can think about it as kind of stacking together in general. And then the burn damage also does a little bit more damage to illusions, which can be nice against illusion heroes or any hero that buys Manta and those kinds of things. And now to see what Radiance actually does, here I have Lifestealer who buys Radiance fairly often, and we just have Radiance in our inventory, and you can see this axe is just ticking down slowly and just over time just taking damage from the Radiance just being in the AoE. When you highlight this, you can see the AoE of Radiance, which is pretty big. So if we kind of just move away from axe a little bit here, we can see that now he's out of the AoE. He's not going to be taking damage just as we approach him. Now he's taking more damage. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. It's not that complicated, and then it just gives us more right-click damage in general. So when we go up to axe and hit him, we do more damage than if we didn't have the Radiance. It's honestly that simple, and then we can just click it, and we can see it's like blue on the edge. It's not really highlighted or glowing as much, and now axe is not taking the damage. The other thing is, if we turn on the creep waves here, and we keep this on, and we approach the enemy creep wave, we can see that all the creeps will take damage in this AoE, which is obviously very, very good for clearing through creep waves and farming in general. So that's Radiance. Honestly, it's not much more complicated than that. I would say I will kind of mention that the only time you really want to turn this off ever is, let's say you're ganking under a smoke, or there's some reason that you're hiding in the trees trying to get away, and the Radiance might alert the enemy for some reason that you're there. They might be looking at the creep wave and see that it's melting when you're smoked, or they might be chasing you down and they get this little hit of Radiance. They say, oh, he's near me in the trees. Those are like really the only times or situations like that that you're going to be turning this off. For, most of the game, you're just going to have it on, really, and you don't really need to worry about it that much. Then the last thing to know about Radiance is that it pairs really well with Manta style and any illusion. So Radiance Manta is a classic build, and we can see that axe is not taking any damage because he's too far outside the AoE. And if we spawn Manta illusions and send an illusion at axe, he starts taking some damage. And then if we send this illusion at the creep wave will also take burn damage from this illusion. So basically, we can use this to cancel blinks or something in a fight if we send one at a hero like axe so he can't blink anymore, or if we're farming and we feel like it's dangerous to approach that creep wave and show ourselves there, we can just send our Manta illusions at that creep wave. Or just in general, maybe it's like that's too far away from the other creeps, that's too far away from the jungle. I'm just going to spawn Manta, send it at the wave, and then I don't really have to think about it too much, and then I'm going to farm jungle. So it's great for efficiency's sake and for safety's sake, and just to have more effectiveness in the fights, canceling blinks, all those kinds of things. So that's why illusions are great to pair with Radiance. So then in terms of heroes that like to buy Radiance, we have Lifestealer, as I already showed you. We have a hero like Alchemist, Necrophos, I'd say Phoenix if you can afford it. depending what position you're playing, a hero like Spectre, maybe a hero like Kunkka. And if you look at these kinds of heroes, there are really two types of heroes that like to buy Radiance. And the first one, like I said, Lifestealer, this tanky strength hero that likes to be in the front, is hard to bring down because of some innate part of the hero. So Lifestealer has Rage and Lifesteal. So you can be in the front of the fight. You kind of just want to be surviving for a long time, and because you're surviving, you're doing a lot of AoE damage. It also helps with a hero like this or any of these other strength heroes that are tanky, because now you have this Rage, or you have this Alchemist ultimate where magic damage isn't as effective against you because you can either, just rage it off, you can regen it out, those kinds of things. But you are a little bit susceptible to right clicks because you're a strength hero that doesn't have a lot of armor. So having that evasion really, really helps a hero like Lifestealer or Alchemist. The other thing is, if you're a hero that gets kited a little bit, like, you want to be in the fight, you're tanky, but they can just ignore you or they can run away. Well, if they're running away and maybe you can't right click them, they're still burning down from the Radiance. They're not able to blink away, and that can be a huge benefit for heroes that get kited a little bit. The other kind of hero that likes to buy this hero is a hero that already has a lot of AoE damage, and you're just amping up that AoE even more, which is why I mentioned Necro, which is why I mentioned Phoenix, because these heroes are really all about burning everybody in an AoE, and so then you're just adding that on top of it. They are also pretty tanky. I mean, Phoenix being a strength hero, having the ultimate where you can just like regen everything back to full, and then Necro obviously having the regen components as well. These heroes are kind of frontliners, hard to bring down, doing a lot of AoE damage. Now you're just amping that up even more. So that right click portion for a hero like Necro or a hero like Phoenix with the extra right click damage, that's not a huge deal. It's more about that AoE magical damage that are just, they're multiplying that, just doing even more damage than what they were before. And so I feel like those are the two kinds of heroes that you can think about. It's like these tanky strength heroes that just want to be up in your face, up in the fight, and just need this extra damage or way to not get kited or those kinds of things. Or a hero that's just, doing what they already do, but even more with this AoE burn damage. I will say there are some other heroes that can buy Radiance. I know we've seen Weaver or Faceless Void buy Radiance, but still the same kind of general concepts applies, that Weaver's kind of tanky with the ultimate, likes to run around. People are always going to be near Weaver. The attack range on this hero isn't huge. Same thing with Faceless Void. You're going to be able to shrug off a lot of damage, and you can get pretty tanky at times. So maybe you get kited here and there or something like that. So you just want Radiance to just help yourself survive, and you want to be effective without Chrono. So that's kind of why that could be a build. We could even see a Jug Radiance build if you're going for like magic damage, although that's not really popular. But you can see how Radiance can still get mixed in with different kinds of heroes. It doesn't have to be those two archetypical heroes like I talked about, but those are the typical buyers. Like, these are just weird, extreme outlier examples. It's mostly the heroes like Lifestealer, Alchemist, Necro, these kinds of things that like to buy Radiance. And then lastly, how do we build into Radiance, and when do we actually buy it? Well, basically, Radiance is pretty simple to build. You just buy Sacred Relic and Talisman of Evasion. That's really all it is. But if you see here, Sacred Relic is 3,400 gold. This is a lot of gold to save up for just one small item that eventually becomes a bigger item. And even 1,300 gold for the Talisman, that's not a little bit of gold either. So this is why this item is a little bit awkward to build, especially because you're going to be buying this probably as like your first real item. A lot of heroes like Lifestealer really only buy, phase boots first, maybe a magic wand, maybe they have a bracer. Sometimes they might buy armlet first, but a lot of times you just want to go straight Radiance. Same thing with Spectre. You just want to go straight Radiance, like a Necro, brown boots into Radiance, maybe at most boots of travel into Radiance. And these are the things that make Radiance a little bit risky, a little bit expensive. Even though 4,700 gold isn't a lot for the general items in Dota, it's a lot for a first item when you're going for it just to farm and do obviously late game damage, magic damage, AoE damage, but then saving up that 3,400 is a big deal. So it's something where it's very risky, because for the first 15 minutes of the game or so, 16, even 17 minutes plus, you're not going to be having these other smaller items that make you more tanky, give you more regen, whether it's mana or health, more armor, any of this stuff. You're just going straight in for this very, very expensive item that really only gives you damage. And then it's not until later that now your farm is amped up. So 20 to 30 to 40 minutes, now you're farming super quickly. You're doing extra damage, and it pays off later in the game. So it is a greedy kind of late game item where you're farming early just for this one item so that later on you're super strong. And that's kind of the way to think about Radiance in general. It's a little bit risky. That's why even a hero like Necro, which I talked about, it can be risky. If you're not going mid Necro and you're able to, do other things on the map, if you're like off lane or something like that, it can feel awkward because you don't want an off laner or some hero saving up for Radiance when they should be going something else to have more effectiveness in the game, like a Blink or something like that. Another good hero, like I said, with Spectre, it's a little bit awkward because this hero has a hard time farming sometimes. You maybe would like to have a different item that can actually amp up your farm. So sometimes you'll go Blade Mail first and stuff like that. So that's why Radiance can be awkward to build into. It's probably one of the most awkward items to build into in general, especially because you're going to be buying it first or second item for the most part. And then lastly, to kind of think about late game scenarios, you're not really ever going to build this late. Once it gets to the 30, 40 plus minute mark, you're not going to be going back for Radiance in almost any scenario. Even if you're against like Megas, you'd probably rather go for a Battle Fury or like a Mjolnir. You're not going to go Radiance in any of those scenarios. You also are probably going to keep your Radiance for most of the game, even up till 50, 60 minutes. There are certain scenarios where, okay, I don't really need the farm anymore. This mischance isn't a big deal. Maybe I'll, get rid of it or something. You can also disassemble this item for now. We'll see if that changes in the future, and use Sacred Relic to build into something like Nullifier or Divine Rapier, and use this to build into Butterfly. That does happen on some heroes like Spectre. You just want to have this for the early portion of the game to farm, and then maybe once you're around 6 slotted, you can split it into 2 different items. That does happen occasionally, so keep that in mind. But for the most part, once you buy the Sacred Relic, you're going to be keeping this Sacred Relic to have a Radiance or to have some other Sacred Relic item. You're not really going to sell this ever. It's not really a situation where you would sell Radiance. And that, everyone, is Radiance. I hope this helped you better understand the item and when to buy it. As always, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.